Welcome to the Royal Road School of Carmelite Prayer, where we are beginning a study of St. Teresa of Avila, a biography written by Marcelle Auclair. The preface was written by André Maurois. And he asks, why did Marcelle Auclair choose St. Teresa for her subject? It was no casual choice that led Marcelle to write the book, nor the request of a publisher. No, it was a desire. It was conceived in her youth and accomplished in the strength of a maturing talent. When quite a child, Marcelle kept the selected works of St. Teresa at her bedside. As a girl, she took as her motto this maxim: let us risk our lives. He who saves his life will lose it. At the time of the evacuation of Paris in 1940, St. Teresa's works were the only books that Marcelle took with her, and in the tragic circumstances of that time, she made a vow to herself that she would translate Teresa's Book of the Foundations. Marcelle Auclair is as much Spanish as she is French. Her father was a French architect. He went to work in Chile when Marcelle was but a child, so that she was brought up in an atmosphere which was that of 16th century Spain. In Chile, Marcelle came into personal contact with people whose daily lives were permeated with their faith. She saw the enormous crucifixes which hung even in drawing rooms to recall the sufferings of Christ. In the evenings, Marcelle attended family prayers with the whole household. That is why, when she studied the saint's youth, she did not feel that she had entered an alien atmosphere. Marcelle began by admiring her heroine and ended by loving her. For the charm of Teresa is irresistible. In the beginning, that charm was merely the ardor and gracious attractiveness of a Spanish girl of a good family. She had always been the most beautiful and the one people loved the most. They spoke with pride of her taste, her cleverness, her wit, her gifts as a young writer. They remarked what a graceful dancer Teresa was, how good she played chess, how bold a horsewoman. Of a piece of embroidery, Teresa made a work of art, and she made the family dinner as exciting as a firework display. In Avila, people said, Teresa de Ahumada, she will marry whomever she pleases. And then this exciting person, full of Spanish points of honor, discovered that human love would just not satisfy her. Yet she seemed so much less fitted for sanctity, as she was very well fitted for worldly success. And in her own view, she was riddled with faults that were contradictory. She was very proud but frivolous. She was domineering but very easily influenced. She speaks of her excessive dissimulation and of her horror of a lie, of her love of pleasing people, which yet did not restrain her quick temper, and of her wretched self-love. A saint she indeed became, but only by force of the will. The will, that is one of her two fundamental characteristics, the second being simplicity. All or nothing, the world is vanity, life is short. I decided to force myself to enter the convent. Here, Teresa pronounced for the first time the word she was to repeat more frequently than any other. I decided it is tremendously important to begin with great determination. The soul that begins with determination has already traveled a great part of the way. Now for simplicity. What drew me To Marcelle's heroine, long before I had read Marcelle Auclair, were the wonderful things St. Teresa said about the sanctity of everyday life. The Lord is to be found among the pots and pans, but to be perfect each day in humble ways, to do well what one does, to treat all those with whom we work with a sense of equality, even with love, there is sanctity indeed. When she was dying, St. Teresa said it once more, "My daughters, ladies, for the love of God, I ask you to keep the rule well. If you keep it in every particular, no further miracle will be needed for your canonization." What is so good about this biography is that the writer has succeeded in bringing out the saint without eliminating the woman. Marcelle had visited all the Carmels founded by St. Teresa. That too was necessary. In the Carmels, founded by Teresa, life goes on today as it did in the 16th century. A piece of linen still does duty for window glass. Finally, a word must be said of the effect of this biography, both on the biographer and on the reader. One is not able to live with a saint without becoming closer to sanctity. Marcelle Auclair has spared us any exhortation or commentary of her own. What she has done is simply paint a portrait of St. Teresa with a loving devotion. And now it is up to you, reader, to seek your own truth there too. André Marois, the preface. Amen.